Hey guys, today I'm going to talk with you about your anxiety, specifically your OCD, your obsessive compulsive disorder, where it comes from, how to manage it. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. This is a total picture of your OCD. You're not going to hear this anywhere else, so pay attention. I'm going to save your life. First of all, what is anxiety? Do we even know what anxiety is? That thing we all suffer from to some extent. It's very simple. It is a threat. It's not a threat. It is a signal from your environment telling you there's a threat. It is an emotional response from the environment saying, hey, there's a threat out there somewhere. That is 100% the cause of your anxiety 100% of the time. It is that simple. We don't like to think that anxiety is this simple because it feels complicated. It feels like it must be complicated, but it's really not. For the sake of making it more complicated than it is, I'll say anxiety is also caused by a loss, right? Whatever. A loss is another word for a threat. A threat is another word for a loss. Comes in from the environment. Could be real, could be imagined. Either way, it comes in from the environment. And anxiety is a response to that to let us know something is out there and we need to do something with it. Now we feel anxiety, let's do something with it. Anxiety, neither good nor bad. It's simply a response from our environment telling us there's a threat. In this video, we're just going to go over one of the 3 things you can do with anxiety. There's only 3 things you can do. And if you have some sort of anxiety disorder, then you do this first thing. In fact, everybody does this first thing to some extent, but it's just a matter of severity. The first thing that you can do with anxiety is, a decision you can make with anxiety is to really not make a decision at all. We avocado the anxiety. No, we avoid the anxiety. The threat comes in, causes this anxiety, and because anxiety is painful, or it's at least uncomfortable, we can agree on that. It's at least an uncomfortable feeling. Instead of feeling the anxiety, we avoid it. And what are popular ways we can avoid anxiety? Well, here's a broad one. Defense mechanisms. We all know Freud and his defense mechanisms. Sorry, is this shaking? It's actually a really good stand, but there's not enough room between my bed and the wall here, so I can't open it up all the way. There's a bed right here. Don't tell anybody. For the sake of keeping this professional, don't tell anybody. There's a pile of dirty clothes right here. As soon as YouTube becomes smell-o-vision, then I'll need to do somewhere more appropriate. But for now, we're in my bedroom. Defense mechanisms from Freud. There's a whole bunch of them. Just go on Wikipedia. Just look at all those. I'm sure you do at least 5 of them. Popular ones are projection, right? We take something uncomfortable about ourselves, something we don't want to see in ourselves, and we project it out into somebody else, usually somebody of higher status, usually some sort of politician, somebody who has more money than us, somebody who's better looking than we are. I've never experienced that personally, but apparently there are people out there who are better looking than other people. Can't relate to that. Defense, projection. Another one is rationalization, sort of like making excuses. This is where we say, oh, well, our situation's not so bad. It could be worse. Everybody does this to some extent, right? That baby boomer movie, The Big Chill. You can go a week without sex. You can't go a week without rationalization. Perhaps more important to our psyche than sex. Why is it important? Because rationalizations defend us from feeling this pain. And I'll get to why that is here later in this video. Rationalizations really seductive. You just get fired from your job, you're walking down the street and you see a bum who just peed his pants and you go, well, at least I'm not as bad off as that. I could be worse. I could be like that bum peeing his pants in the street corner there. What are you doing? You don't want to feel this. You're avoiding. Another way we avoid is distraction. Sorry, I'm trying not to turn away from the camera when I write. Distraction. We live in this world full of internet. I mean, there's Wi-Fi going through my brain right now. Everybody, even poor people, they have 24-hour access to the internet. Well, what's yours? Mine's Twitter, Wikipedia, email. Just get caught up in that loop. That's distraction from this. Usually some problem with work, some problem with school. It represents a threat or a loss. So I avoid it because it's painful, because I'm a big wuss. And this leads to what? You know it, it's right there. This leads to OCD, obsessive thoughts, compulsive behaviors, and some sort of disorder, meaning it affects your life negatively. What are obsessive thoughts? They are any thought that can be boiled down or that have the subtext behind them of I can't. Every obsessive thought has at least the subtext, the belief behind it of I can't. So a popular one is the subway comes in the train station and you have the obsessive thought of I want to jump in front of the subway train. Not saying I think that, but I've heard it. I've heard that's a common obsessive thought that people have. But what's the subtext of that? I can't have healthy relationships. I can't get along at work. I can't work on this, or I can't figure out this problem that I have with work or school, whatever it is. I can't. I can't speak without a Midwestern accent. Whatever the I can't is, it's some sort of obsession behind that. Whatever the obsessive thought is, that's just the veneer. Look beneath it, what's causing it, it's always an I can't. Compulsive behavior. Similar subtext. Well, not similar, but as simple. Not a lot of spaces there, but I have to. Just want to make it one word. But I have to. That is obsessive compulsive disorder. I can't, but I have to. Well, what if you had to do a thing, but you couldn't do it, but you still had to do it? Right? You would be busy all the time without really getting anything done. This is OCD. This is organizing the utensil drawer when you have something important to do. This is going through your email and deleting and organizing all your old emails that you're never going to read anyways. This is OCD. You're avoiding this. But really you're avoiding the feeling that is a response to a threat or a loss. I can't, but I have to. That is our OCD. Another or common manifestation of OCD is this big enough to read? If it's not, I'll say it. Addiction. Addiction is a compulsive behavior. Oh, and by the way, when you're doing something compulsive, or that something compulsive in your life is if you know it's wrong and you try to stop doing it of your own free will, of your own strength of will, and it doesn't work, then it's a compulsive behavior. But it's not a problem with the behavior, right? It's a problem. You have a maladaptive relationship with the anxiety. And this is what happens. You have some sort of OCD symptoms. You go to the cognitive behavioral therapist and he says, oh, you have these obsessive thoughts? Well, let's give you more helpful thoughts. The train comes in the station, you think I want to jump in front of that train. How about you think, my life is pretty good? You're just changing the thought. Or you have the compulsive behavior. Well, let's give you more helpful behaviors. But this doesn't work. That's the problem with CBT. It only works in the short term, if at all. And it really only works because now at least you're going in and talking with somebody about your anxiety. We'll get to that. We'll get to the way out of OCD. But it doesn't work in the long term. Why? Because you're not getting to the root of the problem, which is a maladaptive relationship with anxiety. Another form of OCD. Oh, you hear this one all the time. Undisciplined. So what? You wake up in the morning, you have to do all this homework, but instead you get lost on YouTube. Maybe you're lost on YouTube right now. Well, that's a good thing, because now you found me, and now you're learning how the root of your undisciplined, or why you are undisciplined. It's not because you're weak. Well, it may technically be because you're weak. We'll get into that. But there's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing that can be cured through exerting your will. You can go and watch motivational videos or go to a motivational speaker all you want. Again, like the cognitive behavioral therapist, that only works for a little bit. That only works in the short term unless you change the relationship with anxiety, which we're going to get to right now. So what is the only way out of OCD? The only way you will ever be able to stop any sort of obsessive thoughts, bad spelling, awareness. That's what that says. I come from this weird island where that's how we spell awareness. Awareness. You need to become aware of what's going on, of all this unconscious baggage. And yes, I'm going to make a dotted line here. This is a good time to do it. Everything below the dotted line is unconscious. Everything above is conscious. And just to tease ahead to the next couple videos, there's 2 other things we can do with anxiety. The first way is avoid. The other 2 ways are going to be this. I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, got to tune in. Got to tune in to see what these other 2 ways of dealing with anxiety. There's this and this. This way is partially conscious. You see I drew the circle a little bit above the dotted line. That was on purpose. This way is totally conscious. This is what gods do. This is what gladiators do. We'll get to it. But before you do either of these 2 things, we first need to become aware of the anxiety. There's 4 ways to do it. There's 4 good ways to become aware of anxiety. The first way, nobody wants to hear it, but I'm going to say it because it's the truth. We're learning the truth of your psychology. The truth can be annoying. Group. Go to group therapy. I'm sorry. I know, nobody wants to go to group. It's lame. It's pathetic. I mean, everybody's a loser in group. That's the stereotype. And guess what? It's true. There are a lot of losers in group. But what happens when you go to group? You go there, you start talking, you start opening your yappity yap about your anxiety. You begin to feel your anxiety, and it's a safe place. It's a good as place as any to do it because there's other people around there who have similar life experiences. Or maybe not similar experiences, but we all have a similar emotion. And so you relate, and because other people, that's even more important. Other people talk about their anxiety, you relate to that. You relate to the emotion behind whatever their life experience is, even if the experience is different than your experience, and it makes it okay. It makes it easier for you to feel your anxiety, for this unconscious baggage to come up, and now you start to feel it. And this is uncomfortable, and it's painful, but in the presence of other people, it's easier to feel. And in the presence of other people, there's the implication is it's okay. This anxiety, all the avoidance I've been doing, all the distraction, defenses, all my addictions, maybe it's okay. And it is okay. You're training your neurology to feel the anxiety. It's like if you lift a heavy weight at the gym, you're training your neurology to lift the barbell. This is the same thing. And this is not an analogy. This is literally the same thing. And I'm using the term literally, unlike millennial girls. You are training your neurology when you're talking about your anxiety to be okay with the anxiety so you can do something more productive with it, which we'll get to in another video. Another thing you can do to become more aware is journal. What do you journal about? This. I can't, but I have to. You get your obsessive thoughts, you write your compulsive behaviors out. Again, bringing the unconscious conscious. Ask yourself the question, what am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? Simple question, powerful. I got that from Carl Jung, who would ask that to his patients. Simple, direct. Hey, what are you avoiding? Let's talk about what you're avoiding, which is causing this, which is so painful, you avoid it. We're not going to bring it up so we can do something with it. Another thing you can do with, or to become more aware, is meditate. Similar to journaling, but without all the writing. Again, when you're meditating, what do you ask yourself? What am I avoiding? Great question. Also, what are you doing when you're meditating? Also, a little bit when you're journaling, is you're getting rid of the distraction. Get rid of the distraction. This stuff starts to bubble up to the surface. Now you begin to feel it. Become more aware of it. Your body acclimates to it. Another way to become more aware, friends. At least one friend. Here, maybe more friends. I'll write that in parentheses. If you can stomach having more than one friend, I would say get more friends. So, similar to group, right? Do you even have somebody in your life? I mean, I'm sure you have people you talk to, right? You have, your drinking buddies, you have your girl pen, but you have somebody you can talk to, like in a real, open, emotional way. You probably don't want to be emotional with anybody because that seems draining. That seems annoying to other people. Because we have this problem in our culture where we conflate emotional indulgence with talking about your emotion. It's because everybody has their Aunt Bertha, their childless Aunt Bertha, who I see every once a year, and all she does is complain about her problems, complain about whatever's going on with her health. And we think, oh, that's what talking about emotions is. So I'm going to do anything I possibly can to not be that, so we don't even talk about emotions. We don't even have people who are honestly our friends. I mean, I bet half of you watching this right now. Look around. Look around everybody else watching this, because you're all in the same place, right? That's how YouTube works. You're all in the same place. Look around. Half of you have not had a real emotional discussion, talk with somebody in at least a year. I know, because I talk to you guys. I know what's going on. Of course you do this. Of course you avoid your anxiety. And you know what? You probably don't even do this. You do this. You just... And it makes that sound effect. You don't even feel you just skip right past anxiety. You avoid so often, it becomes habituated, and you skip right past your anxiety. You may not even know you have anxiety. But you have obsessive thoughts. You have compulsive behaviors. You have a couple of weird addictions. You're undisciplined because you're on YouTube every other day watching those stupid motivational videos. So you do this. These are the fingerprints of anxiety. This is a hand. This is a 4-fingered hand. Like this is a Simpsons hand, which makes me God because I have 5 fingers. These are the fingerprints, the footprints, whatever prints of anxiety. What do? You become aware of it, you talk about it, you journal, you get in touch with what you're avoiding. This makes you feel your anxiety, which is uncomfortable, but it's way better than being here, because at least now you can do something with anxiety. And both of these are more productive than this. This is the worst. I mean, this isn't that great either. This also can be an anxiety disorder. We'll get to it. But this is what you do. Another way to feel awareness. I know I said 4. There's 5. Another way. I swear this is the last one. Myth. Stories. Movies. Film. Movies. Film. You see yourself in the hero or the group of heroes, and you go, oh, what they need to do to overcome whatever, the evil force is, that's what I need to do in my life. You know why? Because we're all essentially the same. Well, specifically, our emotional lives are all exactly the same. We all go through the same emotions. That's why we can watch movies. Everybody throughout the whole world can watch the same movie, and we can all relate to it because we all do this. This is what you do in the movie. The hero's been doing this. He's been avoiding anxiety, and so he confronts his anxiety, usually represented as something like Darth Vader. And he becomes aware of it, and he can do something much more mature, gladiator-like, God-like, Buddha-like, Zarathustra-like, Jesus-like. Yeah, this looks like a hand. This also kind of looks like a cross, right? Well, guess what you're doing? When you take this stuff here, this gold, this is your gold when you know how to manage it. when you can manage it in a healthy way, in a mature way. And by that, I specifically mean it in a way that not only helps you, but helps other people. We relate to myths. This is how we become aware of what's going on in our life. Similar to group, but group is more powerful because it's good to have faces there. I'm getting off track, but what do? And you do this, you're sublimating. You're on the cross. You're sublimating that which is the worst thing about you into the best thing about you. That is Jesus. That is Buddha. That is any God, lowercase g, God, whatever Gladiator, whatever Russell Crowe movie you like. Gladiator is a pretty sweet movie. And this is the structure. This is the structure by which you do it. Emblazon this in your mind. We're going to be back with a couple more videos on anxiety, explaining this and ultimately explaining this. Please use this information. Incorporate this information in your life, because I sure as heck don't.